Youngsters, your commuters, your residents, your students, your alums, your lawyers, your truckers, your calls, your tweets. And we'll give you rock, classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes, and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio. Sound good?
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And I sit there and I listen to the opening song, and it's titled Respect Your Father, and it's from the CD The Wrinkled Rag, written by none other than yours truly. And I sit there as I listen to the music and I just kind of get into the groove, get into the flow of things as I get ready to open up the show. And I'm just so thrilled to be with you yet again this morning. If you don't know who this is by now, this is your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live each Saturday morning here on the Reading Circle with Marc Medley on WP 88.7 FM and GoBrave.org, where we are heard all around the world. So anywhere you are in the world, if you have internet connectivity, a computer or mobile device with speakers, you can hear my voice. So good morning to you wherever you are in the world. My guest is calling all the way in from the West Coast, so it's 3 o'clock in the morning her time. She's waiting there in the wings. I'm going to get her introduced shortly. But for those of you who've been listening any time or amount of time, you know the ritual and the routine. We give you the weather. We start off reading from the two books, What Can Happen When We Pray, and Until Today. I introduce my guest. I'll share some information with you, and then our interview will be underway. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Give you the weather here in the New York area. Right now it's 42.4 degrees. We're expecting us to go to a high of about 10 degrees more, 52. And then we're going to drop to a low of 10 degrees less of 32. It's going to be sunny today. Clear skies tonight. Scattered frost possible. And then on tomorrow, Sunday, generally sunny. Despite a few afternoon clouds, expect a high of 50 and a low of 28, partly cloudy Sunday night. And then on Monday, sunny skies, high of 53, low of 37. Clear skies on Monday night as well. Tuesday, partly cloudy in the morning. Actually, it's going to stay partly cloudy all through the day and the evening. 64 as a high, 44 as a low. And rounding out the forecast here on Wednesday, 69 as a high, 46 degrees as a low. Sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, and then partly cloudy on Wednesday night. That is the weather brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. Like I said, I'm going to read from our two selections. This is the Reading Circle, so therefore I open up the show with reading. And they are positive readings, and they are to do no more than to kick off the show in a positive vein. And it does, because the rest of the morning just flows once I read from these two positive passages. So for today, October the 17th, out of the book What Can Happen When We Pray, it says, all things are possible. Today's prayer: God of infinite power, all things are possible through you. Forgive my stubborn resistance to your invitation to me to live a new life. All right now, I am overwhelmed by your patient love. Fill me with a strong desire to know you and love you more deeply and to serve you more completely. Give me ears to hear your voice and a will to go wherever your spirit is leading me today. Amen. When the Word of God tells me about my potential, my response is often unsure and confused. Nevertheless, God keeps pleading with me to trust the words of Scripture that tell me who I really am and what I can become. I am challenged even more to believe in my community's potential. Today, no matter what the television and newspapers say, I will rejoice in God's assurance that if my people would only follow where God wants to lead us, we would find peace and joy and true greatness beyond our wildest dreams. That's from the book What Can Happen When We Pray for today, October the 17th, out of Iyanla Vanzant's book, Until Today. Iyanla says, I will realize my own worth when I accept what I tell myself I am. All right now. Your self-worth and sense of worthiness begin with the belief and understanding that you are not a victim. When you know who you are and whose you are, you cannot be a victim. Sure, things happen to you. There are people who have dishonored you. You may have been born into circumstances that put you behind the so-called 8 ball. You may have been rejected and molested. You may have been afflicted with mental, emotional, or spiritual dysfunction. None of it makes you a victim. As long as you believe it does, it will. In Yoruba culture, the story of Oji Ejibo is a case against victimization. Odi Ejibi's brothers lied to him and set him up to be murdered. Through prayer and meditation, Odi Ejibi was warned. He left his homeland and instead of being killed, found wealth and riches in another village. The biblical story of Joseph is another case against victimization. Joseph's brothers threw him into a well and sold him into slavery. They also told their father Isaac that Joseph was dead. Joseph served as a slave and eventually became captain of the king's army. In that position, he was able to save his family, including his brothers, from starvation. Like Odi Ejibi, Joseph knew he was not a victim. What he told his brothers is a mantra for all those who feel they have been victimized. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. People have a propensity to do mean, mindless, irrational, irresponsible, and unloving things. You know that. Rather than asking why, ask how can I use this for my own growth? Until today, you may have realized that you have the power to reshape and redefine, or shall I say you may not have realized that you have the power to reshape and redefine any experience, no matter how devastating it seems. Just for today, take off the cloak of victimization. Look at your experience and ask the Holy Spirit to show you how to use it for something good. Today I am opening my mind and heart to the power of recreation. I tell you all the time, these readings just seem like they line up with the guests that I have scheduled for the morning. And I know that's by divine providence. I had absolutely nothing to do with that, but they always seem to line up. And as I begin talking to my guest this morning, you'll see. Matter of fact, as I start reading her bio, you'll see how it lines right up with both of those readings. I told you my guest is calling in from the state of California, all the way on the West Coast in Pacific time, where it's a little after 3 there, it's 6 here, and she's none other than Keyonna S. Cox. Keyonna S. Cox was born and raised in Oakland, California. At the innocent age of 2, her mother was brutally murdered by a close associate while Keyonna was quietly sleeping in the other room. Although not a straight A student during elementary school, Miss Cox was very engaged in learning. In spite of becoming vice president at her school and salutatorian of her 8th grade graduating class, astonishingly, she had a challenging year and succumbed to many temptations. High school was a whole new journey for Keyonna. Unaware of the added responsibilities and potential distractions, she quickly got off track and was headed in an unforeseen direction. Discontented with traditional school, she decided to enroll in independent study her last 2 years of high school. To her advantage, she completed all the requirements in 1 year, graduating a year earlier than anticipation. I told you it was going to line up with what Keyonna said. An entrepreneur at heart, at the thriving age of 18, Ms. Cox enrolled in a medical billing program and computer course, with plans to start her own medical billing company. Without success in the aforementioned business, she applied and worked casually at multiple medical institutions as a receptionist and/or medical biller. In addition, Keyonna was employed with random companies in various industries. Encouraged by a salesman at a furniture store, she decided to apply and was enrolled at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, majoring in fashion design. While attending college, she simultaneously interned for Macy's and was contracted with Nordstrom, both as a dresser and an assistant fashion stylist. Frequent trips to Los Angeles stirred up the desire to expand her horizon to style for celebrities, TV, film, magazines, and other media outlets. Keyonna eventually relocated to Southern California and attended makeup designery, where she studied wardrobe styling, and subsequently she became a celebrity stylist, fashion editor, wardrobe supervisor, costume designer for a feature film, fashion lifestyle correspondent for an international magazine, styled her first music video, and worked cohesively with producers and directors. Concurrently, she coached and consulted artists, producers, executives, colleagues, students, teens, relatives, friends, and everyday people. Additionally, she launched House of Style, a private post-secondary institution dedicated to fashion and wardrobe stylists, produced, breaking into, and succeeding in the fashion and entertainment industries. Fashion wardrobe stylists Conference, has been a guest speaker at various universities and colleges, assisted with the relaunching of Elite Fashion Academy Los Angeles, conducted seminars at the Learning Annex, educated travelers on the boutiques situated on Rodeo Drive, and has contributed her time at churches, elementary schools, nonprofit organizations, teen and governmental events, and at 3 o'clock in the morning on the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. Keyonna, a mother of 3, resides in Los Angeles, California. She is currently the producer-host for the Power of Enrichment broadcast, providing enrichment coaching services for the entertainment and fashion industries, private entities, couples, families, groups, organizations, and corporations. Available for domestic and national speaking engagements, authoring her first book, Building Project Teen Foundation, and assisting with the establishment of an international nonprofit fashion and entertainment college. Keyonna, welcome to the Reading Circle microphone. And soon as I do that, we're going to come back and begin our interview. But I am thrilled that you rose early to join us this morning. And surely, listening audience, you can see that Keyonna did not stay in the victim mode that Iyanla was talking about in that passage that I read to you a few short minutes ago. So don't you dare move. You stay right where you are. The only movement you should have is you getting on your social media sites, letting someone know that Keyonna is on the air with me this morning on the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. So get on all of them. I mean, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, what Snapchat. Get on every last one of them that you got and let them know they need to tune in to the Reading Circle on WP 88.7 FM in the New Jersey area and gobrave.org anywhere else in the world.
We interrupted the Braveology show for an urgent announcement. Due to a major shipping error, we're giving you the best classic rock, 80s, electro, and more. Sorry, we're fresh out of crunk music. Now back to your regularly scheduled Braveology.
Want to expand your horizons? Want to broaden your mind? Well, listen to the only show of its kind. Listen to the Reading Circle.
We bring you what's going on in the world of reading, in the world of books. Sometimes the book may be from 20, 30 years ago, because the thing about books, they are timeless, particularly if there's a good message. And then there are times when we do books that are hot off the press, that were just released.
Listen to the Reading Circle every Saturday morning from 6 a.m.
The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley.
Only on WP 88.7 FM.
Well, I asked you not to go anywhere, so I really don't have to welcome you back, but I will welcome you back since we did rejoin you, shall I say. We rejoined you, you rejoined us. And we're going to go ahead and start from the beginning because, Keyonna, I read your bio, and I read the whole things, and I always explain this because a lot of times the bios are lengthy. But I always share with the guest as well as the listening audience, I do that for a reason. I want to read the entire bio for those who are listening as a form of encouragement. In other words, folks will listen to all of those accomplishments, accoutrements, and achievements and say, whoa, wow, that's just the guy going on. Wow, that young lady really is working. And it might spark something in them that would say, well, if that could happen for Keyonna, that could happen for me. If Keyonna is able to go from having her mom brutally murdered as a youngster and still do all of that, then I should be able to do a little something myself. So when I read the entire bios, I do that as a form of encouragement, and I'm glad you all always share it with me because you never know. Someone may be listening that will say, well, okay, let me get up off my butt and do something based on the fact of what I've heard everything this young lady has done. So that's why I do that. And again, welcome to the Reading Circle. How are things going?
Things are going crazy on business vacation right now. I'm currently in my hometown visiting. So, but I also have some business out here as well.
So you're out in Oakland?
That's going great.
I always remember Oakland for two things: their football team and their baseball team. I always remember because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I always hated the Oakland Raiders. The owner at the time, Charlie Finley, he was always doing something crazy with the colors and the baseballs and so forth and so on. So I remember the Oakland A's, and I also remember whenever you all had that storm out there, or the bridge or something broke, or it was. So I know Oakland. Actually, I've been there before. I've been to Oakland, San Francisco, L.A., Anaheim, all of those. I've been out there. Beautiful area of the country. You all weren't affected by these mudslides that happened yesterday, were you?
You know what? I was actually in the Bay Area. I've been out here since last Wednesday. So, and the interesting thing is that we had actually planned on staying until Wednesday, this following Wednesday. So had we returned back to L.A., then we may have been affected because the 5 is closed down. And that's to get back. So, hey,
well, I'm watching the news, and I'm literally watching tractor trailers go under mud. I mean, literally, I'm watching Channel 2, whatever it is, with Scott, World News with Scott Pelley or whatever it's called. It was on Channel 2 on CBS on our end. And I'm literally sitting there watching the mud come down and cover 18-wheel tractor trailer trucks. And there were cars in there. I mean, the mud, they said within like a 10-minute period of time, cars were submerged under mud. It was absolutely amazing. And I was like, wow, because my thing is, what took years and centuries to create, God can tear down in minutes. And so it was like, well, I mean, literally, because the reporter said it was like 10 minutes, and they were engulfed. So, all right, 3 o'clock in the morning. Funny story, listening audience. Keyonna was supposed to be with us a couple months ago, or a month or so ago, whenever it was, and I'm always very mindful in the emails when I'm chatting with guests in terms that we're on Eastern time and we're live. So I made sure, Keyonna was going back and forth, and she was excited. I was excited. So on the morning of the interview, the phone didn't ring and everything. I said, okay, that's happened before. But now the funny part, though, was at 9 o'clock when I was about to walk out of the studio, the phone did ring. I pick up the phone and say, WP887 FM, and she says, hi, good morning. And I was like, yes, good morning. Who are you? And she said, this is Keyonna. I said, Keyonna, it's 9 o'clock here. I'm getting ready to walk out the studio. She was happy and excited. But we did get her rescheduled, and she is here, and I'm glad about that because, again, this is one of those interviews that can certainly be an encouragement, and that's what Keyonna does. She goes out and she speaks, and she's an enrichment coach, encouraging folks, trying to get people to be the best that they can be. So I tell you what, because I did receive your email, if I were to describe you, what are the 3 words you can describe yourselves as?
Okay, well, I describe myself as very empathetic, highly graced, and I'm also very focused.
Well, I tell you what, that's 3 very good things to be, because it seems like, I'm reading your bio, and we're going to go back a little bit in terms of how you got to where you are, because I noticed in the bio you said, it was not like the straight 8 student in the world. It almost sounded like I didn't even really care for school to the greatest extent. And I could see, again, going back to the Keyonna thing, I could see why you might not, based on your early childhood experience. You said you were 2.
I was 2.
And do you remember that happening, or this was told to you?
It was told to me. I don't remember. And my grandmother, on my mom's side, she really didn't talk about our mom growing up in the situation. We only knew that she wasn't here.
Right.
My grandmother didn't share. She didn't want to talk about it. And, just about 2 years ago, the guy who did it, he's still incarcerated. And so he had a parole hearing, and I hadn't been before. My sisters had, some of my other family members had, but they've been wanting to know where is this little girl who was there, because that's something that they wanted to know if I did remember that. And I just don't remember it at all. I don't remember my mom. I don't remember the situation, which is a great thing, because it probably would have been a little more traumatizing to know something that.
I said, as I read the bio, my first thing was, as the kids can say, OMG. And for those of you listening who don't know what OMG is, oh my God. That was my first reaction as I was reading it. And then you were just now talking about your grandma. One of the worst things, and you're a mom, so you have kids. One of the absolute worst things on the planet is for a parent to lose their child. So I can understand why your grandmother wouldn't be talking about that much with you, because that is a pain that will never go away. And then on the flip side of it is the reverse is not only as a child losing their parent, but in the manner. So even though you were 2, it's a good thing you don't remember, but still just knowing that has to be something that will work on you. And where I'm going with this is that would impact everything else that happened in your life. So at that age, when I'm looking here, this is although not a straight A student during elementary school, you still liked learning. You did like learning. And then you became vice president at your school and wound up becoming salutatorian. So in spite of the odds, you still beat them.
Yeah.
So it looks like as I'm going through this that you were kind of like an odd beater all the way through. In other words, you beat the odds all the way up the line based on everything that I've read. Talk to me a little bit about what prompted you to become an entrepreneur at 18? Because I work in the school system, I work with kids every day, and I'm just trying to get them to like school. And here you are, like at 18, thinking about owning your own business. Where'd that come from?
You know what? I've always had that. One thing I say about the Bay Area, it's actually a lot of entrepreneurs out here. They just don't know it yet. Very creative, a lot of witty ideas and inventions. They just some of them don't have the opportunity to do so. And I just, you know what, it was in me. It's just been in me. My grandfather, he actually created the cameras on the bus. And so my grandmother would tell me, that's where you get it from. Like, he's always doing something. And, like, he only completed up to the 8th grade. And even though he really couldn't read, my grandmother said he just did so many different things. And so it was just in me. It was in the bloodline. But also, too, I had my first child at 17 years old.
Okay.
And I wanted to spend more time, and my second at 18 years old.
Okay.
I didn't mention that in the bio. However, I wanted to be more involved in my children's life, and I wanted that flexibility. So I said, okay, well, I need to work for myself.
Wow.
I have to work for myself.
I characterized you as an odd beater, and you just increased the odds even more when you said you had 2 children, one at 17, one at 18. So, all right, so you actually in your mind said, okay, you know what, I want to be with my kids, so I'm going to create a business, and you chose medical billing.
Yes. I received something, it was like a postcard in the mail. You can become a medical biller, you can do it at home, you can make X amount of dollars, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's get on this. So yeah, I started, went down to the courthouse and filed all the necessary paperwork, my DBA and et cetera. It didn't go as fast as I wanted to as far as the home-based business, and so I just went out and applied for jobs. And, well, prior to that, I did the training for medical billing, which they gave around 18 months. I completed in about 6 because it was at your own pace. And, yeah, and then I applied for jobs and went from there and started working at medical offices, and, yeah, it was great.
Well, I'm just sitting here like fascinated, one, reading your bio and then hearing you talk about it, because what I'm seeing here is I don't see any fear. I see you have no issues with change whatsoever, because I see now you applied and enrolled in the Fashion Institute of Design. So you went from medical billing to now fashion. What was that leap like for you?
Well, you know, that's something, too, that I've always had a passion for fashion. My grandmother, my mom, my dad, well, I heard with my mom, she used to love to dress. My dad loved to dress. And my grandmother as well. She used to take us shopping all the time. And I just really was into fashion. And so while I was a medical biller, I was like the youngest one in there, and I would have some of my coworkers like, what are you doing in here? Why are you here? Like, this is for old people. And, you know, I have the money, and I have to do something. And so I was actually in a furniture store. I don't believe they no longer have them, this particular furniture store in the Bay Area. And I was talking to a guy. He was in the interior design department. And we were just talking about fashion, and I told him that I was interested in fashion design. And he said, well, you know what? There's a school in San Francisco, and they specialize in fashion design. You may want to check them out. And he really encouraged me to go for it. I didn't have anybody else to encourage me to go for it.
Wow.
And I went for it.
Well, you know, it's amazing what just a few words from someone will do. That's why this interview for me, like I said, reading the whole bio is so important. because we never know, your words this morning or your speaking with me this morning may spark someone to say, you know what, I've been sitting on the fence about this idea, but I'm going for it. And because, I mean, you're talking about just somebody talking to you saying, they have this school over there, and you went. And so now you go through that, and not only did you start getting into the fashion, now you want to make a connection with celebrities. Now, I know being in media, it's easier now with social media, but still to reach those that are quote unquote, whoever the hottest is, the celebrities, they're on TV, they're on radio, they're on this, that, and the other. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, that's everybody's dream. I want to be around celebrities or either be one. How did you make that happen? Because now you started doing, celebrities, TV, film, magazine, so forth and so on.
Well, around 18, after my second son, two of my friends, well, actually it was three of us, we started doing a little more traveling. And so we got out of the Bay Area, we headed out to L.A., we started just going out and exploring new things, and we would bump into celebrities. And so we took all these pictures, and people would see, like, you guys are on the picture like you guys are friends, and we just go out and go out. Yeah. They're like, wow, like, do you guys know them? We're like, no, that was our first time meeting them. But they're like, you guys look like friends. And so we started to really go out. I mean, we said we were on tour. Like, we really went out and just had fun. And we would meet a lot of celebrities out. And so with the staff, as I said, I was simultaneously assisting at Macy's and Nordstrom's as an assistant stylist and a dresser. I did that for about a year, and after that, I said I wanted more. I just really felt limited. The opportunities in the Bay Area were limited, and I wanted more, and I just knew that I had to go out somewhere else to get more, and that's what led me to Los Angeles.
Well, it's interesting because that's a recurring theme I'm hearing from you, that despite the obstacles, you were still saying, I want more. Yeah. And it's kind of like that drive that's propelling you along. So who are some of these celebrities that you all were taking pictures with that you look like you knew?
Oh, wow. I mean, you name it, even back then. DMX, Eve, just Nelly. It was a whole bunch of Pam Grier. Oh, the list goes on.
I'm not surprised. I've been trying to get for years now. I've been trying to get Pam Grier on the show. I just finally stopped because we were actually tweeting each other, and me and her publicist, we were emailing back and forth. And I think Pam just didn't want to do the early morning because she's out on the West Coast as well. So I don't think she wanted to do the early morning. I think when it was all said and done, I think she was like, I am not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do his show. But I had been going back and forth with her because I actually was reading her book as well, her autobiography. So all right, so now you go through that, and now you're doing your own thing in terms of magazines and all of that. Kind of like, how did you transition into that, or was it a natural transition?
Wait, I got to put a plug in for Pam real quick. Just, I wanted to make everyone aware that Pam was the first one to do selfies. She took a selfie of her.
That at all. Like I said, I was reading her bio, and her life is interesting as well. Even her start and coming up, and as she was growing up as a child, so forth and so on, is interesting. That's why I wanted to get her on the show too. But so now I see you again. You want it more, and you start doing wardrobe, costume designer for feature films. What? Talk a little bit, because you're kind of like in an industry. You're in an area that people kind of dream about. I've had folks that a lot of my guests have been on the news or work in news or work in one of the major stations. And I'm always fascinated about, what does it feel like to be in an industry that the average Joe or Jill would kill to be in? I mean, you're around these people all the time and so forth and so on. What is that like for you?
Well, see, when I actually started working in the industry, with being around entertainers before, it was like a smooth transition. I was very comfortable because I had already been around many celebrities before. So when I moved from the Bay Area to Los Angeles, I attended the makeup designery. At that time, they had a wardrobe styling program. And it wasn't to learn about wardrobe. It was more of networking, because it was only a 6-week program. But when I went to Los Angeles, I knew one person, well, two. my sister was out there, but she's like a homebody, so she really don't count. And a celebrity hairstylist. And so I went to the school and did some networking. And my first week, the week that I graduated from school, I was approached by the celebrity hairstylist to do a photo shoot with Lisa Ray for Sister to Sister magazine.
Right.
He was like, she needs a stylist. I'm like, okay, great, I'm there. And so did that. Very interesting. We had fun, a great time in doing that. And so, but at that time I had a mindset of, I want to make my own name. I don't want to ride on his coattail. However, I don't suggest that for anyone. The opposite of what I did. If you know someone, and we already had a relationship, so it wasn't like this is someone new, someone who didn't know me. No, if you already have a relationship, utilize that to your advantage, because the referral based.
Oh, there's no years ago, back in the 90s, because I was working for AT&T at the time, and I was one of the marketing managers, and my particular product at the time was called USA Direct. And we were one of the sponsors at the Cannes Film Festival over in France, over in Nice. And I went as the manager of the program. I actually went over there and was set up within the pavilion at the Cannes Film Festival. And I'm sharing the story to say that, various celebrities were there, and the directors and the producers and writers, all of them are there. And literally, if you were not in that industry, they didn't talk to you. And they were very clear on that.
Yeah.
Very good. So to Keyona's point, if you have that network and those connections, use them to the full. I'm just always amazed at the people who make those connections, like the ordinary, like I said, Joe and Jane, are able to press their way into that network. Because, see, for me, I'm not starstruck. I think people are people are people. Even when I've met celebrities as well, and entertainers and ball players and so on. And for me, I kind of go up in there with the say, hey, I'm just as good as you are type attitude. Right. And so I'm not one that's going to be screaming and hollering, and, oh, my God, I won't wash this hand forever and all that kind of nonsense. That's not me. But at the same time, I do understand it is an industry that's difficult to push yourself into. So those of you that do it, I'm always kind of fascinated by it. So we're going to take a very short information sharing time. Some of the information I need to share with you seems like the system don't want to share it, so I'm going to share what it will. And then we're going to come back. If you've just joined us, my guest is Keyonna S. Cox. And for folks that do multiple and many things, I kind of tag them as Renaissance people. So Keyonna now falls in my Renaissance woman category, just based on looking at her bio. She is a Renaissance woman, but more importantly, and we're going to talk about this whenever we come back from my sharing this information with you, she's not doing it just for her. And you'll understand what I'm talking about whenever we rejoin. But I'm going to share this information with you. You know what to do. Get on all your social media sites. Let somebody know that Keyonna is on the air with me, that they can hear us by going to gobrave.org anywhere in the world. And if you're in the northern New Jersey area, we're on FM radio, WP 88.7 FM.
Sometimes the book may be from 20, 30 years ago, because the thing about books, they are timeless, particularly if there's a good message. And then there are times when we do books that are hot off the press, that were just released.
Listen to The Reading Circle every Saturday morning from 6 a.m.
The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley.
Only on WP 88.7 FM.
How can I make money in the music business? Why copyright?
Should I make a CD anymore?
Trying to break into the music and entertainment biz? Wondering how the business works? Wondering how guys like Elton John and MC Hammer go bankrupt?
Why am I not making any cash?
Tune in to WP Brave New Radio every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Hang with the university's music business faculty hosts, me, Steve Marconi.
And me, Dave Phil. Plus, we'll have industry guests and students from the music management program.
How do I get gigs down at the shore?
Call in with your questions and hear the latest in industry happenings.
How do I get my music on iTunes?
How do I get on a tour? It's Music Biz 101 and more every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Only on WP Brave New Radio.
Your secretary's got our checks, right?
Mine's direct deposit, I think.
All right, you're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. Actually, this morning is a Reading Circle doubleheader, as I do have a guest scheduled in the 7 o'clock hour as well. As you know, every now and again, we will have 2 guests stacked, sometimes 3. Every now and again, we might do a Reading Circle triple header. But this morning is a doubleheader, and usually we have our usual hour from 6 to 7. My guest this morning is Keyonna S. Cox, calling all the way from Oakland, California this morning. And we are talking about just kind of like her life in general. And I told you right before I shared the information with you that Keyonna is a Renaissance woman. And she's done many things despite the odds. You heard the beginning of her story and as she worked her way through. And I said right before we went to the break that she's doing all this, but she's not necessarily doing it for herself. In other words, it's not just about her. So, Keyonna, talk to me a little bit about what do you see as your mission? What is your mission in life after listening to everything that you've done and getting a chance to hear your own bio? What is your mission?
My mission in life is to, and we all go through things in life. Some of us have support systems, some of us don't. And growing up, I really didn't have a support system as it related to my family, and I was one of those ones who, with my friends, I knew it all. So, and they would come to me for advice, and I said, well, if they're coming to me for advice, why would I go to them for advice? So I really didn't have anyone to go and receive advice from until my early 20s. When I started meeting other people. But growing up, I didn't, and I just really encourage for the teens and those who may or may not have that support system to search out. There are other like-minded people who can assist you and support you and encourage you. That's actually how our broadcast got started. Our Power of Enrichment broadcast.
I'm glad you went, because that's where I was going next, because Power of Enrichment, that's exactly what you're talking. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is the broadcast about? I noticed you're doing a lot of mentoring and working with teenagers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a few years ago, rewind. As a teenager, surprisingly, I got into a little more trouble than the average. A lot of learning experiences, and again, because I didn't have the positive role model in my life, someone to help lead, direct, and encourage me in walking that straight path. And nobody's perfect, and so I know that even having a mentor or someone to encourage you there, it's not that you're not going to make any mistakes, but as I said, I had quite a share for myself. And so I just really feel as though I felt if I had that, I could have been here a long time ago.
Right.
But I didn't have that person to encourage and inspire. And even as soon as last year, I was going through a very challenging situation. And so my co-host, which we have a mutual friend, we decided to get together for about 5 minutes, even if it was 5 minutes a week. Let's get together 5 minutes a week and encourage one another. It started off with the 3 of us, and then it ended up being the 2 of us, which was okay. And we just started sharing more and more with each other, different stories, different things that we had experienced in life, and encourage one another. So in December, we started seeing results, positive results in our life, things happening. And we're like, hey, if this is happening for us, there are other people who are out there with the same thoughts, only if I had someone to encourage, to inspire. And we said, you know what, let's start like a conference call. The conference call went to a broadcast. So we had Power of Enrichment broadcast on Blog Talk Radio. And we did that for several months, which actually exactly a month today was our last broadcast for that particular month. Simultaneously, we were writing a book while we were doing these broadcasts. Our book is actually Power of Enrichment, foundation for life in the broadcast, which is power of enrichment. So in the book is simply a guide utilized to share true wisdom with all those seeking to live a more meaningful, fulfilling, and abundant life by being enlightened with the truth and understanding. And so readers can expect, similar with the broadcast, to receive an enriching experience accompanied with practical applications that can then be applied to their everyday lives, including relationships, business, finances, health, purpose, spirituality, and much, much more. So, and that's similarly what we were doing on the broadcast.
Well, one thing I do know, and I was just listening to you in terms of that encouragement and enrichment, because I said it earlier in terms of even the furniture salesman who encouraged you to go on to the fashion design school. It is amazing what a few words from folks will do. I mean, because at the end of the day, and I've come to this realization with working with so many people in so many different facets, whether it's on radio, whether it's in school, whether it's in the church, whether it's in fraternity, whether it's in wherever. There are a lot of people out there who are hurting, and a lot of people out there are hurting, and they're not going to let you know they'll put on the mask. They'll put on the facade. And until you start getting into conversations like that, you wouldn't know it. But then at the same time, once you start, because you kind of like had a little power network going on there between the three of you. And I had a guest on a couple of weekends ago that's a part of, like, I forget what they call, like, your power group or something they call them whenever they do pretty much the same thing. They get a bunch of people together and they just constantly encourage each other to go higher and higher. And that's what I'm hearing from you, that you're encouraging folks to continue to reach. And the fact that you're doing that with teenagers is so, so important. And I laugh because I'm listening to you whenever you were kind of describing, you got yourself into a few little scrapes here and there. So you're giving people a chance to learn from what they call OPE, which is other people's experiences. So you're giving these teenagers something that is so valuable that they probably don't even realize it, that you're trying to keep them from going down a road that you went down because you know what it's going to turn into.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So the book is a power of enrichment as well.
Yes.
Okay, and that's due, and that's hence she's on the reading circle, folks. The book is due out sometime near the end of this year or either very early next year, because I know how those things go. But she's in the process of writing the book. It's going to be on power of enrichment. And again, it's about, being able to uplift yourself, being able to go on in spite of. Because one of the things that's inspiring me just looking at her bio and reading it and talking to her is how regardless of what occurred, you heard it say she's very transparent. That's the other piece that's very critical too, Keyonna, is the transparency, because a lot of people would either hide, or either they would be ashamed of, or either they would not share, or either they would pretend like it didn't happen or whatever, which when it's all said and done, that really doesn't help a lot of people either. But the fact that you now come out and say, hey, been there, done that, got the hat, T-shirt, mug, and everything else to prove it. The fact that you can come out and say that and people can go like, whoa, hey, I would have never known that had you not shit. That good-looking sister went through this and da-da-da-da-da. That is what really will encourage people to say, again, like I said in the bio, whoa, if that can happen for her, maybe it can happen for me. And so I applaud you in terms of that. So in terms of, you've done a whole lot already. What are your future business objectives?
Wow. Well, I am currently in the process of establishing my own production company. So putting on my producer and writer hat and, of course, speaker, specializing in film, TV, and special events. So I'm going back to my roots with fashion and music and charity. And so, yeah, I'm doing that as well.
Well, my philosophy is this: there's no such thing as a wasted experience.
No.
And that is, everything that you've done will always contribute to whatever it is that you are doing.
Yes.
And so all of the experiences, like I've had varied experiences as well. And right now, like I said, I'm the principal of a school. But prior to being a principal, I've been a secretary, I've been a janitor, I've been a jet engine mechanic, I've been a telemarketing rep, I'm a radio DJ, I've been this, that, and the other. And I always tell people every last one of those experiences helps me to be a better school principal. And so whatever I go to after this, school principal will now be listed in that. That will help me to be whatever I'm going to be next. So everything that you've done, it's all going to come together, kind of like connect the dots to make you the best, whether it's producer or whether it's film person or whether it's production company leader or whatever. All of your experiences are going to make you the best at that. I also see that you want to build a Project Teen Foundation.
Yes, Project Teen Foundation is very similar to, Power Enrichment. That's what it's about, inspiring and encouraging. And it's more of a partnership. So I had someone ask me before, who's your competition, the Boys and Girls Club? And I'm like, no. Boys and Girls Club would actually be a partner of Project Teen. So, yeah, it's more of a one-stop. Teens can come on for different resources because there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of different organizations that some parents aren't aware of. And even if they are, maybe they're not as involved in their child's life. And maybe the child is seeking some type of help, some type of encouragement. And they can go onto this website and find in their local area what are the different resources out there that they can reach out on their own.
Do you mainly deal with females or males or both?
Both.
Oh, so you deal with the boys and the girls?
The boys and the girls. I have 3 boys. Well, I call it young men.
Right.
Yeah, I have 3 young men. However, I am a female, but was a female teenager, so I understand what that is like as well.
Oh, absolutely. So you have 3 boys. Oh, I have 4 girls. I couldn't buy a boy. And it seems like you couldn't buy a girl. But people that had like 6 or 7 girls ran in my family. It was like if I had gotten a boy, I'd have probably passed out of shock because it runs so deep in my family. But in any event, it is so critical for our boys and our girls. And that's interesting because you're saying I'm the mother of 3 boys, but I was a girl, or I am a girl. And so you really, too, like I said, with the OPE, and not only, are you giving your experiences, but you're giving the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, all right, girls, look now. And oddly enough, because I'm detecting from your picture and your voice that you're not that old. I know you're not as old as I am. But the times in 2015 are a whole lot different than even when you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
There are some.
Yeah, well, I just shared that with my goddaughter. Her mother and I, we just was speaking to her. And my little cousin last week, they're 19, 20, and we said it's so different from when we grew up.
Oh, it's way different. I can tell you now. I was a teenager in the 70s, and I was in my 20s in the 80s, and it is some of the mistakes that I may have made at that point would not have cost me my life, but if I made that same mistake in 2015, it could very quickly.
Right.
And that's what, and I work with kids all the time as well, and I tell them all the time, I say, you need to understand, not anybody's trying to be mean to you, nobody's trying to keep you from having fun. We really are, in our heart of hearts, trying to keep you alive, because it is painful. Again, like you know, that whole scenario with your mom or whatever, it is painful to lose children to people that you know, especially to violence and so forth. And we are in a more violent society now than ever.
Yeah. It's a lot going on.
It really is. And our teenagers, they really, everybody thinks the generation behind them or coming in front of them or behind them, whatever it is the worst thing going. But they are faced with challenges. Social media was not around whenever I was a kid. Desktop computers were not introduced to the public when I was a kid, let alone iPads and iPhones. So our kids are challenged in terms of exposure more than ever in our history. So the access to things that you want them not to access is so much easier now, and a lot of the things that they're trying can kill them. So when they have somebody that you can say, look, hon, don't go down that road because this is going to cost you. Like you said it best whenever you said, I probably would have gotten to where I am, but I'd have got here a lot quicker.
Right.
Without having to take all these detours and so forth and so on. But I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. So your experiences, it happened to you so that you can now help somebody else. Exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Personal aspirations. I mean, I hear your business objectives and your target markets. What do you want? What more do you want to do personally? You're young. You got a long way to go.
Well, I mean, in short, I call it total life prosperity. So just being prosperous in every area of life, purpose, health, finances, relationships, business, spirituality. Yeah, that's really in short. it sums up everything in every area.
I know, that's right. So as you're working with it, have you worked with, I'm quite sure, kids in your community, their family, or have you ever had them come and say, you know what, Keyonna or either Miss Cox, I want to be like you?
I have.
I'm sure.
And you know what? In that, I just thought about this the other day, that the next time someone says that, I'm going to say, okay, well, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? No, you want to be you.
Right.
You don't want to be me.
Right.
Because a lot of things that I went through was not necessary.
Right.
It was learning, but as I said, I didn't have that guide to assist in leading and directing and encouraging me. So, again, once you go through that list of what you've been through and that transparency, getting back to that is so crucial.
Right.
And the funny thing about that is, as a teenager and even a child, I was very private, is what I called it. My grandmother called it sneaky, but I called it very private. I was very private, and I didn't share a lot. Like, even my closest friends didn't know a lot of things about me because I was very, very private. Right. And I had someone one day, a complete stranger, I talked to him for about 5 minutes, and he said, you need to share your testimony. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Right.
He doesn't know me. I mean, like, he didn't have a bio. He didn't have anything. It was just talking to me. And he said, you need to share. And I'm like, okay.
And he was right.
Okay. Yeah.
To guide you. They're your angels, for lack of a better word. I mean, I don't know what everybody's belief system is, but a higher power has been sending people into your life, whether it was the furniture salesman or the guy that said you need to share or whatever. But I think that's a magnificent thing, because more people need to, first off, most people think that whatever they're going through, they're the only one in history that's ever gone through it.
That's like a misconception.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
So whenever you now come across somebody that says, no, you're not the only one, I'm going through that, or I've gone through that as well, that is a big weight lifted off the shoulders. And so for somebody to be able to say, wow, I have somebody I can talk to, somebody I can relate to, somebody, and like you said, just listening to you say, I didn't have that guide or that coach or that person or that mentor in my life, that is so powerful. Because what it jumped out at me was I serve so many kids who don't have that either. And we are the teaching staff and the administrators, I think we try to really fill that gap. But just knowing that there are so many kids out there that are in that same boat, and that's in some respects why we're getting what we're getting. And so
and a lot of adults don't see that.
Right.
They see that, they're bad. Or
right. Absolutely. So I'll tell you what, we're down to the last 5 minutes. I know your book is coming out, but you have other businesses as well. This is your opportunity to promote. The only thing that you cannot say is a dollar amount, but any other thing in terms of contact information, where you're going to be, any signings, your businesses you're trying to launch, how they can get in touch with you, website, anything like that you can do at this moment. So the mic is yours. Hello. I think I lost her. Hello, did we disconnect?
Yes.
Okay.
We're back.
So I was saying the microphone is yours in terms of promotion. You can say anything except the dollar amount. So any websites, signings, your business that you have in terms of your speaking, you can promote any of that with the exception of the costs.
Okay, great. Okay, so you can follow me on Twitter at Keyonna S. Cox. And that's Keyonna, S as in Sam, COX, because Keyonna has a lot of different variations.
That's right.
Friend me on Facebook, again at Keyonna S. Cox. And as it relates to speaking engagements, I can be reached at KeonnaSCox@gmail.com. And, any questions, any comments, any suggestions, I'll take that too. Because we learn.
That's right. We learn from each other. You're right.
Yeah, continuously. We'll never know everything. We can always learn every day more and more and more. We can learn. So I asked somebody yesterday, did you know that twins can have two different fathers? They're like, no. I said, yeah, Google it. They said one in every 400 is by they have different fathers.
Wow.
And they said,
We do. Well, I tell you what, I thank you. So I was teasing you prior to us coming on the air in terms of if you choose to go back to bed now, you can do that. For those of you on the air, you know, you've heard me say this before in terms of my guests. I always tease them in terms of doing a radio interview this early in the morning. They can actually be home in their pajamas or either sipping tea or whatever they want to do because it's not TV. Because even when I come into the studio, I come in here with sweatpants or sweatshirts on. I don't have to get made up, none of that, because you can't see me. You can only hear me. So we just need to make sure our voices is in check. But beyond that, we can kind of come in however we look. So Keyonna, again, I thank you for rising. I'm glad we were able to make up or reschedule the interview. Certainly you are an inspiration and encouragement, and our kids and our adults for that matter need folks like you to be able to share their experiences so that folks again can learn from OPE, other people's experiences. Why are you have to fall into the same hole someone else is falling into, especially when we're telling you not to fall into it? So they, like you just said, there's more ways to learning than just by books. You can learn from what other people have gone through. And so if you're smart, if you are wise, you will take someone's like a Keyonna advice and you will follow it chapter and book. Like, so you don't have to be her. You don't. That's not the objective. The objective is not to make a bunch of Keyonna S. Coxes.
Right.
Be
you.
That's right. The objective is for you to be you, but be the best possible you. And if somebody can tell you where the pitfalls and the detours are, why would you now go down that road that's going to hit you with a detour sign that you were told is there? So thank you so much. I always make the disclaimer in terms of the equipment. If everything is doing what it's supposed to do, I'll have it recorded. I post it as a YouTube link as far as an archive, and I will send you the link as well, and you can do whatever you'd like with it.
Okay, great. And thank you, Mark, for having me. It was great, wonderful. And shout out to my co-host and co-author, Laura Clark. She's out there in New York.
I know. Matter of fact, you have the exact title of the book? You know exactly what it's going to be, or you all are still playing around with it?
Yes. No, the exact title of the book is Power of Enrichment, Foundation for Life.
Okay, Power of, and it's coming out near the end of the year, so we're going to look for it. I'm assuming, and maybe it's a bad assumption, that it's going to be available on Amazon or electronically or in local bookstores. But and the byline is Keyonna S. Cox, and who was your co-author?
Co-author is Laura Clark.
Laura Clark. So, all right, so we're going to be looking out at the end of the year for Power of Enrichment by Keyonna S. Cox and Laura Clark.
Absolutely. And again, follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook to stay abreast of all things Power of Enrichment, Keyonna S. Cox.
Well, I tell you what, make sure you either LinkedIn me or inbox me or email me when the book drops, and I will make sure that we promote it here.
Absolutely.
All right, have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, I'm going back to sleep.
I know that's right, because I might do the same when I get back home.
Okay, Mark.